No one expected a human princess to survive the Galactic Games. The station hovered silently above a distant, pale blue star, its surface glittering with lights from thousands of other ships. The Galactic Games were about more than entertainment. They were the greatest test of skill, intelligence, and courage in the galaxy. Only the strongest, smartest, and most daring participants survived. And here she was, a human princess from a small planet called Earth, stepping into a world where most beings considered her species fragile and weak. The moment she set foot on the platform, a cold wind of artificial atmosphere brushed her face. Her gaze swept across the arena, and she could see competitors from dozens of alien species already assembled. They were unlike anything she had ever seen. Beings with 4 arms, creatures whose eyes glowed, giants who could crush a human with one hand, and delicate-looking forms whose speed was faster than any human thought. All of them had trained their entire lives for this moment. Ilara had trained too, but in ways they could not understand. Her strength was not in muscle or alien technology, but in her mind, her heart, and the resilience of being human. A murmur ran through the crowd as they noticed her. Many competitors laughed quietly behind her back, whispering in strange languages. "The human girl," one said in a low, harsh voice. "She doesn't belong here, she will fall first." Another, taller and covered in silver scales, shook its head and muttered, "She's too small." Too fragile. But Ilara did not react. She knew that underestimating a human was a mistake they would regret. Ilara's eyes scanned the arena. It was massive, a labyrinth of metal platforms, towers, and moving walls. Drones hovered in the air, recording every movement for the spectators who watched from millions of light years away. The trials would test every skill imaginable: strength, agility, strategy, and intelligence. A single wrong move could end her participation in an instant. But she had prepared. She had studied alien movements, tactics, and psychology. She had trained her body and mind to respond to the unexpected. Humans were adaptable, and that was her secret weapon. The opening ceremony began. Lights danced across the sky of the arena, reflecting in the wide eyes of the audience, a mix of aliens and humans. Music from strange instruments echoed, deep and vibrating, filling the space with energy. Announcers in multiple languages shouted introductions, but Ilara paid little attention. Her focus was on the competitors. She noticed a group of Velorians, known for their strength and cunning, eyeing her with disdain. A pair of feathered Zintari whispered and pointed at her small frame. Even among the crowd of powerful beings, she felt the weight of their doubt. Yet, Ilara smiled quietly to herself. She did not need to be the strongest or the fastest. She only needed to survive the first trial and show that humans were clever and daring. The first trial was announced, the obstacle gauntlet. Competitors would navigate a shifting maze of platforms, swinging barriers, and traps. Many had practiced for this moment all their lives. Ilara had never run a full-scale obstacle course like this, but she had trained in ways the aliens could not predict. She had learned to use her environment, to notice patterns, and to think quickly when danger appeared. When the doors opened, competitors charged forward. Aliens leaped with unnatural speed, some using extra limbs to vault over obstacles. Ilara waited a heartbeat before moving, observing how the traps were triggered by those who rushed. She noticed one swinging barrier that moved in a pattern. Timing it incorrectly would crush a participant, but Ilara calculated the rhythm and sprinted through just as it swung back. Another trap was a floor panel that collapsed under too much weight. Large Velorian competitors fell through it, their bodies heavy and unyielding. Ilara stepped lightly, feeling each surface with her feet, adjusting her balance. Her smaller size, which others had mocked, became an advantage. She moved swiftly, dodging hazards that others could not. As she advanced, she encountered a wide chasm with only thin beams to cross. One of the Zintari laughed, assuming she would fail. But Ilara took a deep breath, remembering the exercises her trainers had given her back on Earth. With careful steps and perfect balance, she crossed the beams without faltering. A small cheer erupted from the crowd as the human princess, small and unassuming, navigated an obstacle that seemed impossible to many of her alien competitors. Halfway through the gauntlet, she came to a suspended platform with a puzzle lock. Competitors were forced to solve it to continue. While most aliens tried brute force or complicated technology, Ilara observed the simple patterns in the symbols. She manipulated them with her hands, using logic and observation rather than speed. The platform unlocked, and she moved forward while others struggled behind her. Even when fatigue set in, she pressed on. Her lungs burned, her legs ached, but she reminded herself of why she was here. She was not only representing her planet, she was showing the galaxy that humans could endure and innovate under pressure. Her determination became a quiet rhythm in her mind, guiding every move. By the time the gauntlet ended, only a few competitors were ahead, mostly those who relied on raw strength or advanced technology. But Alara had not only survived, she had excelled, moving with a combination of cleverness, agility, and observation that no one expected. She crossed the finish line to gasps and murmurs from the audience. Whispers began to circulate. The human princess might not be weak after all. The next challenge would test her in a completely different way. Instead of speed or physical agility, it would test intellect and strategy. Alara knew that the first trial had been just a demonstration. It had been about endurance and observation. Now she would have to show that humans could think under pressure, make decisions quickly, and lead when the stakes were high. As she rested briefly before the next trial, she noticed small details others overlooked. The drones, flight patterns, the shadows cast by the moving walls, the way some competitors hesitated in their movements. Every observation became a note in her mind, a map for the challenges ahead. She realized that most competitors were strong in one area but weak in adaptability. Humans thrived where predictability ended. When the next trial began, Alara felt a calm determination. She could hear the crowd's mixed reactions, some skeptical, some curious, and some quietly rooting for the underdog. She smiled internally. This was the beginning. The galaxy had underestimated humans for too long. They would soon learn that resilience, creativity, and courage were powerful weapons in themselves. As the day turned into night in the artificial sky of the arena, Alara reflected on what had happened. She had survived the first test, outsmarted competitors larger and stronger than her, and remained focused under pressure. Other competitors began to notice, some with fear, others with respect. She was no longer just the human princess, she was a contender. The crowd roared as the closing bell of the first day sounded. Alara's body ached, and her mind was buzzing with strategy for the next challenges. But she felt a quiet satisfaction. She had proved something fundamental. Humans were underestimated but not weak. They adapted, they endured, and they thrived where others failed. As she looked up at the stars beyond the arena, Alara felt a spark of hope and determination. The Galactic Games were only beginning, and she had already made a mark. The galaxy would watch her, and they would not forget the day a human princess stepped into the arena and survived where everyone expected her to fail. And deep down, Alara knew that survival was just the beginning. The games would test her in ways no human had ever faced. But she was ready. With intelligence, courage, and a heart that refused to yield, she would face every challenge ahead. The galaxy might have doubted her at first, but soon, every being watching would understand the strength of a human spirit. The morning light of the artificial arena sky bathed the massive station in a soft, golden glow. Princess Alara stretched lightly, feeling the lingering aches from the obstacle gauntlet, yet her mind was alert and ready. Today's challenge was unlike the first. It would test intelligence, strategy, and the ability to adapt quickly. She could see the tension in the other competitors' faces. The obstacles today were less about physical strength and more about cunning. The participants were led into a vast chamber that seemed simple at first glance. The floor was smooth, with grids and markings, and the walls displayed strange, glowing symbols. A platform in the center rose, revealing holographic projections of different landscapes, each more complicated than the last. The announcer's voice boomed in multiple languages. "Welcome to the trials of mind and body. Only those who can think, move, and adapt as one will survive. Let the challenge begin." The competitors hesitated for a moment. Many of them had strength or speed, but this trial demanded strategy. Alara observed quietly, noting patterns in the holographic obstacles and listening to how others reacted. Most immediately rushed forward, confident that their superior physical abilities would see them through. That was their first mistake. Humans were not the fastest, but they were clever and careful observers. As the first set of obstacles unfolded, mechanical platforms rotated and shifted, creating pathways that changed constantly. Some competitors stumbled, their strength unable to save them from falling into traps or being blocked by moving walls. Alara took a deep breath and analyzed the rhythm of the moving structures. Step by step, she timed her movements perfectly, using her small size to slip through gaps that larger aliens could not navigate. Midway through the chamber, the trial required participants to solve a puzzle while under pressure. Panels with symbols lit up, and a timer began to count down. Mistakes caused parts of the floor to drop away or trigger minor but dangerous traps. Many aliens panicked, trying random combinations with brute force. Alara, however, approached it calmly. She had learned that patience and careful observation often mattered more than speed. She examined the symbols, noticed their repeating patterns, and slowly, deliberately aligned them. The panels clicked into place, and the floor beneath her glowed green, allowing her to proceed safely. By now, whispers had begun to spread among the crowd and even the competitors. The human princess, the one who had been mocked, was not only surviving, she was excelling. She moved with a quiet confidence that was different from the arrogance of some aliens. Her calm observation and quick thinking made her unpredictable, and unpredictability was a powerful weapon in a trial designed to reward only the most adaptable. The next section of the trial introduced moving obstacles that required both physical agility and mental calculation. Giant swinging arms, rotating blades, and laser grids moved in patterns that seemed random, but careful attention revealed subtle timing. Many competitors misjudged their steps, caught off guard by changes in speed or direction. Alara, however, used her eyes and instincts to anticipate the patterns. She jumped, ducked, and sprinted with precision. Where others faltered, she flowed, almost as if she were dancing through the trial. At one point, she encountered a competitor who blocked her path, a large, four-armed creature from the planet Zyril. It roared and moved aggressively, confident that its size and strength would force her back. Alara paused for a fraction of a second, then noticed the creature's movement pattern. It leaned slightly before lunging. She sidestepped with perfect timing, using its momentum to guide it forward and out of her way. The crowd murmured in astonishment. No one had expected a human to turn brute force against itself so cleverly. Beyond the physical challenges, the trial demanded quick thinking and problem-solving. The participants faced areas where they had to choose one of several paths, each with hidden risks and advantages. Most aliens relied on probability calculations or instinct, but Alara observed each path's subtle details, slight marks, changes in light, or tiny debris that hinted at traps. She chose carefully, moving through safer routes while others stumbled into danger. Her ability to notice what others missed made her progress almost effortless compared to the chaos around her. The trial became even more intense when competitors were forced into collaborative tasks. They had to work in pairs or small groups to move obstacles or solve puzzles, yet alliances were tricky. Some species distrusted each other and betrayal was common. Alara approached this with a different mindset. Instead of assuming deception, she offered simple, clear communication, appealing to the shared goal of survival. She formed temporary partnerships, helping others just enough to ensure cooperation, yet never relying on them entirely. Her human empathy and reasoning created small, effective teams where others saw only conflict. A key moment came when a massive stone slab blocked the path forward. One alien competitor tried to lift it with brute force and failed. Alara stepped forward, observing the structure. She realized that the slab was balanced in a way that allowed movement if pressure was applied at the right points. Using leverage, she shifted it with minimal effort and cleared the path. The aliens nearby stared in disbelief. Strength alone could not solve every problem. Intelligence and patience mattered just as much. As she progressed, fatigue began to creep in. The trials were designed to exhaust participants physically and mentally. Muscles burned and her mind felt stretched to its limits. Yet she forced herself to focus, breaking each problem into small, manageable parts. She noticed the subtle signs of other competitors' mistakes, the hesitation in their steps, the repeated miscalculations, and used that knowledge to move faster and safer. Humans had endurance beyond the obvious. They could adapt to pressure and think even when exhausted. This was Alara's secret weapon. The final part of the chamber combined all previous challenges, moving obstacles, puzzles, and collaborative tasks. It was designed to overwhelm participants and separate the strongest from the rest. Ilara faced a spinning platform over a pit of simulated acid, with a puzzle panel at the center and two other competitors vying for control. She observed quickly, noting their movement patterns and tendencies. Instead of rushing or confronting them, she found a path that allowed her to solve the puzzle while staying safe. She communicated subtly with one competitor, guiding them without giving away advantage, and together they navigated the spinning platform successfully. When she reached the exit, the audience erupted in cheers. Competitors stared at her with a mixture of fear, admiration, and disbelief. The human princess, small and underestimated, had not only survived the trials of mind and body, she had thrived. Her success was not a result of brute strength or alien technology, but of careful observation, intelligence, empathy, and adaptability. Ilara paused to catch her breath, feeling the pride of accomplishment but also the awareness that the games were far from over. Every challenge ahead would test her in new ways: endurance, strategy, and leadership. She had proved her mind and agility today, but tomorrow might demand something entirely different. As the competitors left the chamber, some began to approach her, no longer with mockery but with tentative respect. A few asked questions, seeking guidance or forming alliances. Ilara welcomed them cautiously, understanding that trust was a rare and valuable commodity in these games. She realized that success in the trials was as much about relationships and perception as it was about skill. Back in the small resting area provided for participants, Ilara took time to reflect. She analyzed the mistakes of others, noting patterns and weaknesses. She considered her own performance, identifying where she could improve. Her mind was already mapping out strategies for the next day, anticipating challenges that might combine speed, strength, and intellect. The evening brought an unexpected moment of calm. As the artificial sun set over the arena sky, she looked out across the vast station, observing the distant stars. She thought of Earth, a tiny blue planet far from this galactic stage. Despite its small size, humans had survived countless challenges, adapted to countless environments, and reached for the stars. That same resilience was within her now, guiding her through the trials. Sleep came briefly and lightly, for the mind that never stopped planning and observing. Even in rest, Ilara's thoughts were alert, running simulations of the next challenges, imagining possible traps, and predicting competitor behavior. She had learned quickly that success in the Galactic Games required constant vigilance. Every detail mattered, every decision could mean victory or failure. When dawn arrived, the arena was already alive with activity. Competitors moved purposefully, some exhausted from the previous day, others already strategizing for the next trials. Ilara joined them, her presence now commanding attention. The whispers were no longer derisive. "The human princess," they said quietly. "She is clever, adaptable, unstoppable." Even the Valorians, once mocking, now cast wary glances in her direction. The second day's trials would escalate in difficulty. This time, speed, intellect, and precision would intertwine with unexpected dangers. Ilara felt a thrill of anticipation. Humans had a way of finding opportunity where others saw only risk. She had survived the first day, conquered the trials of mind and body, and gained the tentative respect of the galaxy's best. Now it was time to see how far her human ingenuity could carry her. She stepped toward the starting line for the next challenge with quiet confidence. Her body was ready, her mind sharp, and her spirit undeterred. The trials had tested her, but they had also revealed her strengths. She was clever, patient, adaptable, and courageous. And most importantly, she had learned to turn doubt into motivation. The galaxy might have underestimated humans for centuries, but Ilara was about to show them that a single human mind, guided by determination and intelligence, could challenge even the most powerful competitors. The games were far from over, and she had already made her mark. With a deep breath, she prepared to face the next trial, knowing that every challenge would bring new dangers and new opportunities. Humans were underestimated not because they were weak, but because they were unpredictable. And unpredictability was a force even the most confident aliens could not control. Ilara's heart swelled with quiet determination. The games would test her, push her to the limits and perhaps beyond. But she was ready. With each step, each decision, and each observation, she proved that humans could survive, adapt, and even excel where others believed failure was inevitable. And so, as the gates to the next challenge opened, the human princess stepped forward, ready to turn doubt into triumph once more. The galaxy watched, skeptical yet captivated, as a small human from Earth began to rewrite the rules of the Galactic Games. The arena station hummed with quiet energy as the third day of the Galactic Games began. The artificial sunlight stretched across the massive hallways, highlighting the complex structures and chambers designed to test every competitor. Princess Alara walked steadily, her senses alert to every movement, every sound. She had already proven herself in the first two trials, surviving the obstacle gauntlet and conquering the trials of mind and body. Yet, she knew the games were far from over. Today's challenges were unpredictable. The announcers had promised a series of tests that would combine strategy, endurance, and social cunning. Many competitors had already grown wary of her. Whispers ran through the crowd as aliens and humans alike speculated about the human princess. "She is clever, yes," one Valorian muttered, "but she cannot last forever." A Zintari competitor, feathers ruffling nervously, added, "Her unpredictability is unnerving. Watch her closely." Alara, as always, ignored the chatter. She had learned that doubt from others was a tool if used wisely. The first challenge of the day was announced: the Labyrinth of Mirrors. Participants would enter a massive, twisting maze filled with reflective surfaces, shifting walls, and hidden passages. Some sections were designed to confuse, some to trap, and others to test competitors' memory and navigation skills. The challenge was simple to describe, yet nearly impossible to master. Many aliens, confident in their senses, stormed in immediately, only to find themselves trapped in endless reflections or caught in moving walls. Alara studied the entrance quietly. She could see how the walls reflected light at certain angles, and she noticed subtle clues embedded in the patterns on the floor. She recognized that rushing would be her enemy here. Patience and observation were her allies. Taking a deep breath, she entered the labyrinth deliberately, moving slowly at first, testing the floor with her feet and watching the reflections carefully. Every turn she made was calculated, every step measured. As she advanced, she noticed competitors struggling in the mirrors. Some relied on strength to push through barriers, others on technology to scan for walls. Both approaches failed repeatedly. Alara, however, trusted her instincts and her understanding of patterns. She could see subtle differences in the reflections and shadows that hinted at the real path. Where others were trapped or looping endlessly, she moved forward steadily. The Labyrinth of Mirrors also tested social awareness. Certain passages required cooperation or at least temporary alliances to open doors or disable traps. Many competitors saw each other as threats and refused to help. Alara, understanding the power of collaboration, approached carefully. She offered simple guidance, showing small gestures of trust that allowed others to assist without compromising her position. Slowly, she formed a temporary alliance with a small, four-armed alien named Creon. Together, they solved a difficult passage that would have trapped either of them alone. Halfway through the labyrinth, a new challenge appeared, a chamber with shifting floors and timed gates. Competitors had to solve a mechanical puzzle to move forward safely. Panic spread quickly as many tried to force the gates open or rely on brute strength. Alara observed quietly. She noticed how the gears moved, how pressure applied in the wrong place caused failure, and how timing with the gates could create a safe path. With careful hands and calm reasoning, she solved the puzzle while others struggled, moving steadily ahead. Her progress did not go unnoticed. Some competitors began to follow her lead, either out of admiration or fear. The whispers grew louder. The human princess was clever, resilient, and far from fragile. Even the Valorians, once dismissive, now exchanged glances filled with cautious respect. Alara did not seek attention. She simply focused on each step, each decision, and each obstacle, letting her actions speak louder than words. Beyond the labyrinth, the next phase of the challenge awaited, the trial of strategy. Participants were placed in a simulated battlefield where they had to capture objectives while avoiding traps and opponents. Many aliens relied on brute force, rushing forward with weapons or speed. Alara observed the environment carefully. She could see choke points, vantage spots, and areas where ambushes were likely. While others acted on instinct, she planned her movements with precision. She moved quietly, avoiding unnecessary confrontation while positioning herself strategically. When she encountered an opponent trying to block her path, she used her environment to her advantage, creating diversions that allowed her to slip past without direct conflict. Her approach was deliberate, combining foresight, agility, and psychological insight. The other competitors were often so focused on their immediate actions that they failed to notice her clever maneuvers. During the trial of strategy, alliances became more critical. Alara recognized that trust could be earned, even temporarily, and used it wisely. She formed a cautious partnership with another competitor, a small but fast creature named Lyra who had excellent reflexes. By combining their strengths, her planning and Lyra's agility, they managed to secure objectives and avoid traps that had caught others. The collaboration was brief but effective, demonstrating that humans could lead and inspire even under competitive pressure. A key moment occurred when a massive trap threatened to eliminate multiple competitors at once. Most participants panicked, unsure of how to respond. Alara analyzed the situation quickly. She realized that by triggering a small mechanism in one corner, she could redirect the trap's movement and create a safe path for herself and others. Acting swiftly, she executed her plan with precision, saving several competitors while advancing herself. This act, though strategic, also showcased human ingenuity and empathy, qualities that set her apart in the games. By the end of the trial of strategy, Alara had emerged not just unscathed, but ahead of nearly every competitor. Her combination of intelligence, careful observation, adaptability, and willingness to cooperate when necessary had given her a clear advantage. The crowd, both alien and human, erupted in applause, astonished at the resilience and cleverness of a species they had long underestimated. After a brief rest, the next challenge began, the trial of endurance. This would test not only physical stamina but mental fortitude. Participants were required to traverse a massive obstacle course while carrying weighted packs, navigating difficult terrain, and solving minor puzzles along the way. Many competitors had trained for this moment all their lives, but few had faced the combination of physical and mental strain that this trial demanded. Alara approached the trial with a calm focus. She had trained for long hours on Earth, running, climbing, and thinking through complex scenarios. Her body ached at first, but she relied on technique and rhythm rather than brute strength. Small steps, careful balance, and strategic rest allowed her to maintain energy while others burned out quickly. When she encountered obstacles too high to scale with her own strength, she used leverage and problem-solving to find alternate routes. Where others struggled, she adapted and advanced steadily. Midway through the endurance course, a sudden challenge forced participants to make choices under stress. They had to decide whether to risk a shortcut with unknown dangers or take a longer but safer path. Many competitors panicked, taking shortcuts without analyzing the risks. Alara, however, paused for a heartbeat to observe the pattern of dangers, then calculated a precise route that minimized risk while saving time. Her human mind, trained for adaptation and careful reasoning, gave her an advantage no brute strength could match. During the course, she encountered competitors struggling under their packs or trapped by the shifting terrain. She could have ignored them, but she realized that helping briefly would create goodwill and, potentially, alliances for future trials. Using her knowledge of the environment, she guided a struggling Lyra past a difficult section and redirected another competitor away from a collapsing platform. Her actions demonstrated both intelligence and empathy, showing the galaxy that humans could lead with both mind and heart. As she approached the final stretch of the endurance trial, exhaustion weighed heavily on her body. Her muscles burned, her lungs felt tight, and her mind raced with calculations. Yet she pressed forward, step by step, refusing to yield. The crowd cheered louder as she navigated the final obstacles with precision. A final puzzle awaited, a gate with a combination lock that required both speed and logic. Competitors rushed, fumbling in their haste. Alara took a deep breath, analyzed the patterns she had observed, and solved it with steady hands. The gate opened, and she crossed the finish line to thunderous applause. The whispers of disbelief had turned into admiration. The human princess had not only survived the trials of mind and body, but had also conquered the labyrinth of mirrors, the trial of strategy, and the trial of endurance. Her ingenuity, patience, and adaptability had turned doubt into respect. Competitors now regarded her as a serious contender, some with caution, others with admiration. Even those who had mocked her at the beginning now acknowledged her abilities, realizing that humans were not as weak as they had believed. As the day ended, Alara rested quietly in her chamber. She reviewed her actions, noting what had worked and what could be improved. The trials had tested her in every conceivable way, yet she had succeeded by relying on observation, logic, and the unique strengths of humanity. She understood that the games were designed not just to challenge physical ability, but to test leadership, adaptability, and moral courage. Humans excelled in all these areas because they could think creatively and empathize even under pressure. Outside her chamber, the station buzzed with speculation. Spectators and participants alike debated the unexpected rise of the human princess. Some marveled at her cleverness, others feared her potential. Alara remained focused, knowing that admiration or fear could be tools to use, but they were not guarantees of success. Preparation, observation, and adaptability would always matter more. As night fell over the artificial sky, she looked toward the stars beyond the station. Earth, a small blue planet, seemed impossibly distant, yet its lessons and resilience were within her. Humans had survived in countless environments, adapted to challenges no other species could, and persevered against all odds. That same spirit guided her now, allowing her to navigate the most difficult trials of the Galactic Games. With each day, Alara grew more confident, not arrogant but sure of her abilities. She had faced the impossible, outsmarted competitors far stronger than herself, and proven that humans could survive, adapt, and lead where others might fail. The galaxy had begun to notice, and soon it would understand the full potential of humanity. Tomorrow's trials promised to be even more difficult. The challenges would test teamwork, leadership, and the ability to make moral decisions under pressure. Alara knew that these qualities, often overlooked by the more powerful competitors, would become her greatest strengths. She felt a quiet excitement. The games were far from over, and every obstacle ahead was an opportunity to show that humans were more than they appeared to be. And so, as sleep claimed her briefly in the calm of the night, the human princess dreamed not of victory alone, but of the possibilities that lay ahead. She was ready to face every challenge, every danger, and every test with courage, intelligence, and determination. The Galactic Games would continue, but Alara had already made her mark, and she was only getting started. The arena station was alive with energy as the final day of the Galactic Games began. Princess Alara stood at the edge of the massive platform, her heart steady but her mind alert. The previous trials had tested her agility, intelligence, endurance, and strategy. She had survived the obstacle gauntlet, conquered the trials of mind and body, and outsmarted competitors in the labyrinth of mirrors, the trial of strategy and the trial of endurance. Today, she would face the ultimate test, a series of challenges designed to push every competitor to their absolute limits. The announcer's voice boomed across the arena, echoing through the massive chamber. "Welcome to the final trials. Only one competitor will emerge victorious. You will face challenges of strength, strategy, endurance, and moral judgment. The path ahead will demand everything you have. Let the final day begin." Alara's eyes swept across the field. Competitors from dozens of species had gathered, their faces a mixture of determination, fear, and respect. Many who had doubted her now watched closely, aware that the human princess was no ordinary competitor. Even those who had once mocked her studied her carefully, noting the calm confidence in her posture and the sharp focus in her eyes. The first stage of the final trials was the Gauntlet of Elements. Participants would face zones designed to challenge different abilities: extreme heat, cold, gravity shifts, and sudden obstacles. Many competitors rushed forward without observation, relying on strength and speed to push through. Alara moved differently. She had learned that adaptation and careful planning were often more valuable than raw power. In the first zone, flames erupted unpredictably from the floor and walls. Aliens with tough exoskeletons pushed forward, but many were scorched or knocked off balance. Alara observed the timing of the flames carefully, noting the rhythm and patterns. She sprinted in short bursts, sliding and rolling to avoid bursts of fire, moving faster and safer than those who relied solely on brute force. Her small size allowed her to maneuver in spaces that others could not, turning a perceived weakness into an advantage. Next came the frozen zone, with slippery surfaces and sharp icicles descending from above. Many competitors slipped and fell, unable to maintain balance on the slick floor. Elara relied on her training and quick reflexes, adjusting her steps and using small handholds to maintain stability. She moved with precision, keeping her focus even as her muscles ached. The challenge was not just physical. It was a test of calmness under pressure, and humans excelled where others panicked. The final element of the gauntlet of elements was the gravity zone, where the artificial gravity shifted unpredictably. Aliens who relied on their natural strength struggled, often being thrown off balance or colliding with walls. Elara adjusted instinctively, leaning with the shifting force and using it to propel herself forward. Every movement was deliberate, every decision measured. She emerged from the gauntlet ahead of many competitors, breathing heavily but triumphant. The next stage was the trial of moral choice. Competitors were faced with situations where their actions could affect the outcome for themselves and others. Many species had been trained to think only of victory, but humans had an advantage, the ability to balance logic with empathy. Elara paused as she entered the chamber, observing her surroundings and the competitors nearby. The first scenario involved a collapsing bridge over a deep chasm. One competitor, unable to move quickly, struggled to cross. Many rushed past, choosing speed over helping. Elara, understanding both the risk and the opportunity, offered guidance. She extended a hand, helping the competitor find footing while maintaining her own progress. Others watched in surprise. No human had ever competed with both cunning and compassion. By helping, she ensured not only safety for another, but also earned the respect of onlookers and some competitors. Another scenario tested decision-making under pressure. Participants had to choose between two paths, one faster but more dangerous, the other slower but safer. Many aliens panicked, choosing the dangerous path and failing. Elara calmly analyzed the risks, calculated timing, and chose the path that allowed her to advance safely while keeping an eye on others who might need assistance. Her decision-making was precise, quick, and informed by both logic and awareness of those around her. The final stage of the trial combined all previous challenges. Competitors were placed in a massive arena filled with obstacles, puzzles, and simulated hazards. Some were aggressive, attempting to block others from advancing. Many relied on brute strength or technology, but Elara approached carefully. She observed patterns, studied movements, and anticipated risks. Where others rushed blindly, she moved deliberately. Where others relied on power, she relied on observation and ingenuity. A critical moment came when a competitor attempted to trap her with a moving barrier. The alien, towering and strong, assumed her small size would make her easy to manipulate. Elara paused for a heartbeat, calculating the trajectory and timing. Instead of confronting him directly, she used the barrier's momentum against itself, slipping through and causing the alien to stumble. The crowd gasped. Her ingenuity had turned a potentially dangerous situation into an advantage. As she moved through the final arena, she encountered a series of puzzles requiring both speed and logic. Competitors who had rushed ahead struggled, failing repeatedly under the pressure. Elara remained calm, taking a moment to observe patterns and plan her moves. With careful hands and sharp thinking, she solved each puzzle in sequence, advancing steadily. Her progress drew whispers from the audience. Humans were not just survivors, they were problem solvers, leaders, and innovators. The last obstacle was a moral and strategic challenge combined. Competitors had to retrieve a key to unlock the final platform while ensuring that trapped participants could also be saved. Many ignored those in need, focusing only on themselves. Elara, however, saw the bigger picture. She used her observation and strategic thinking to plan a route that allowed her to retrieve the key while creating a safe path for others. Her actions balanced speed, intelligence, and empathy, showcasing the unique strengths of humanity. As she unlocked the final platform, she heard the roar of the crowd. The audience, both alien and human, erupted in applause and cheers. Elara stepped onto the platform, her chest heaving with exhaustion but her spirit soaring. She had faced every trial the Galactic Games had presented, physical challenges, mental puzzles, strategic battles, and moral dilemmas, and she had excelled at each one. Her small size, once considered a disadvantage, had become an asset. Her calm observation and intelligence had outmatched raw strength. Her empathy and leadership had inspired temporary alliances that helped her succeed. Competitors approached her, some to congratulate, others to challenge. Even those who had doubted her abilities now regarded her with respect. Alara did not boast or gloat. She had learned that true strength lay not in arrogance, but in action, observation, and the ability to inspire others. Her victories were the result of careful thought, courage, and the resilience of the human spirit. The final announcement came. The announcer's voice echoed across the arena. The winner of the Galactic Games, the competitor who has shown intelligence, courage, and moral strength beyond all others, Princess Alara of Earth. The crowd erupted into deafening cheers. Aliens and humans alike applauded, some in disbelief, others in admiration. The human princess, once underestimated and mocked, had become a symbol of resilience, ingenuity, and leadership. Alara stood on the platform, feeling a quiet sense of accomplishment. She thought of Earth, her home planet, small and often overlooked in the galaxy, yet full of people who had survived, adapted, and thrived against impossible odds. She had carried that spirit into the games, showing the galaxy that humans were not weak. They were clever, resilient, and capable of great courage and leadership. As she descended from the platform, competitors approached her with respect, some offering friendship, others nodding in acknowledgement. Alara had not only survived the games, she had earned the admiration of beings from across the galaxy. Her actions had shown that success was not just about strength or speed, but about observation, strategy, empathy, and the ability to adapt to any situation. Back in her private chamber, she reflected on the trials. She had faced physical danger, mental challenges, and moral dilemmas. She had encountered beings stronger, faster, and more technologically advanced than herself. Yet she had persevered by relying on the unique qualities of humanity: intelligence, creativity, empathy, and adaptability. She realized that these qualities, often underestimated, were powerful tools in a universe that valued brute strength and technological advantage. Alara's victory also carried a message for the galaxy. Humans, once considered fragile and insignificant, had proven that they could compete with the strongest and smartest species in the universe. Her success would inspire others to see the potential in humanity, to recognize that courage, ingenuity, and moral strength were just as important as power. The celebrations were grand. Lights danced across the arena, music echoed, and the crowd cheered in waves. Alara received her award with humility, understanding that her journey had been about more than personal victory. She had represented her planet, her people, and the spirit of humanity. Every trial, every challenge, had been an opportunity to demonstrate the strength of human resilience and intellect. As she looked out over the cheering crowd, she felt a deep sense of purpose. The Galactic Games had tested her in ways she could never have imagined, yet she had emerged stronger, wiser, and more confident. She knew that her journey was only beginning. The galaxy had seen what humans could do, and now it was time to build on that recognition, to continue proving that courage, intelligence, and compassion could achieve what brute force alone could not. That night, as the artificial sun set over the arena station, Alara stood at a window overlooking the stars. She thought of the future, of the countless challenges yet to come, and of the opportunity to inspire others. She had survived the impossible, outsmarted the strongest, and shown the galaxy that humans were not to be underestimated. Her mind was already planning the next steps. The victory in the Galactic Games was not an end, but a beginning. Humans had a place in the galaxy, and she would ensure that her people were respected, valued, and recognized for their unique strengths. The games had been a trial of skill and spirit, but they had also been a demonstration of what humans could achieve when courage, intelligence, and moral strength guided every action. Princess Alara, once a small figure from a distant, underestimated planet, had become a symbol of hope and potential. The galaxy had watched as a human princess faced the impossible and emerged victorious. Her journey would be remembered for generations, inspiring humans and aliens alike to recognize the power of resilience, creativity, and the unyielding human spirit. And so, as the station's lights dimmed and the crowds dispersed, Alara felt a quiet pride. She had faced every challenge with intelligence, courage, and empathy. She had shown that humans could survive, adapt, and excel in a universe full of strength, speed, and power. The Galactic Games were over, but her story, the story of a human princess who defied expectations and proved the strength of her species, would live on forever. No one expected a human princess to survive the Galactic Games.